Hi everyone. So with regard to the concept of external commercial borrowings, as I already said, there will be totally 4 lectures. In that first, second and third were already there, and this will be the last lecture on the external commercial borrowings. This particular lecture will be concentrating on the final conclusive aspects of the topic external commercial borrowings. Okay, external commercial borrowings will contain, the last lecture will contain all the reporting requirements, penalties, and how to report to RBI, forms involved, fees involved, and non-traceable entities. What is the standard operating procedures the RBI will generally follow, and special dispensations are available to startup companies and as well as oil marketing companies on a public sector basis. So all those things also we are going to learn. Once after completion of that, certain other miscellaneous aspects will be there in ECB, that will be learnt, and we will close this issue called as ECB. If you can go through on a down the line backside whatever we have already completed, we have immensely got a good knowledge on how ECBs actually work in first lecture. Other aspects like recognized lenders, eligible borrowers, limits, all those things we learned in second lecture, and most importantly we learned about what is the real meaning of minimum average maturity period. We already completed that. So with 2 good illustrations we completed that concept called as a MAMP. Okay, once after completion of these 2 things, then we started with hedging requirements. We spent one full lecture on understanding how the hedging actually works. So we integrated one issue on SFM linked with FEMA to understand what do you mean by hedging in ECB. There we also learned what is the need for MIBOR and LIBOR rates, who will announce, and why LIBOR will be announced by stock exchange but not by RBI or any corresponding bank. With a good example from SFM on forward rate agreements, we already completed that. Once after completion of that particular issue, we are left out with another 12 different topics to cover. How many? 12. 22 topics we covered in the last 3 lectures. There are totally 34 concepts. We completed up to 22, from 23 till 34. Okay, from 23 till 34 there will be totally 12 concepts. Those 12 issues we are going to cover in this final lecture on ECB. So let us take a very good time and complete these aspects. Once these are completed, everything in our syllabus will be over with regard to FEMA. Am I clear, everyone? So let us start with the concept. First one, have a look. Change in the currency of borrowing. Okay, change in the currency of borrowing. Okay, this I will explain later. From here let us complete first. 24 to 34, 11 concepts will be there. First we will cover those. Once after completion we will come to 23 finally. 23 concept is very simple, just 1.5 minute. That I will do at the last. Okay, but I want to explain one important issue in that 1 minute or 1.5 minute discussion. First let us complete from 24 to 34. Okay, small issues only, not so great, just reporting requirements, remembering some form numbers, all these things will come. Am I clear? So let us now start with topic number 24 to topic number 34. Once we complete all those issues, then we will be closing this ECB concept. Clear, everyone? From the examination point of view and also from the practice point of view, both we have taken into consideration, and then only we started this lecture. Am I clear? That means 100% it will be on par with your examination preparation schedule, how to prepare for ECB. Every question, whatever the question it may come in exam, it should fall within the ambit of these 34 types of questions. Okay, so that's why I didn't put this particular chapter like a paragraph type answer like what institute has provided in RTP. I divided everything into 34 questions and answers format. So if you can observe this properly, you can cover any kind of question that comes in exam. Clear everyone? So let us start. First one, special dispensations under ECB framework. What is this? Special dispensation under ECB framework. Okay. Dispense means what? Throw out is called as a dispense. What throw out? Normal rules, whatever you have already read above, will be thrown out. Special provisions will apply in case of part A and part B and part B. That means whatever the last 22 questions we read, hedging, end use requirements, ECB liability equity ratio to be maintained by a foreign equity holder, 7:1 ratio is there, na? That ratios and the limits, okay, leverages, all these things are thrown out. Separate provisions were written for part A type company and part B type company. Let us see what are those. In simple sense, special dispensations to ECB framework means some exemptions are given to part A and part B type companies from the normal operating ECB framework. What are those special provisions that are applicable is the first question we need to answer. Okay, let us see. Part A, in case of oil marketing companies. In case of which company? Oil marketing companies. Okay. First thing, applicable to whom? Public sector oil marketing companies. This is very, very important. Public sector oil marketing companies. Sir, what do you mean by public sector oil marketing companies? That was not defined anywhere in this ECB concept. Institute material also does not contain any example for that. But for your understanding, whatever the content that was fit in this gray content is only drafted by me and not by the institute for your understanding and clarity for purposes. Okay, what do you mean by public sector oil marketing companies? It does not have a definition, but I can give good examples. Indian Oil Corporation, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation, Bharat Petroleum Corporation, okay, Namligar Refinery Limited, Mangalore Refinery and Petrochemicals Limited, Bharat Oman Refineries Limited. All these are public sector oil marketing companies in India. Cain Energy, private sector. Reliance Petroleum, private sector. SR Petroleum and Petrochemicals Limited, private sector. Shell Petroleum Company Limited, private sector. So Reliance Petroleum, SR, Shell, Cain Energy, many examples can come, are private oil marketing companies and thus are not governed by this dispensation. That means this concept is applicable to whom? Public sector oil marketing company. Okay. Okay. So now answer, whenever I take ECB, I will use for which purposes? Already we read in the MAMP concept. I can use it for general corporate purposes. I can use it for repayment of rupee loan taken. I can use for NBFC's on lending activity. I can use for a capital expenditure. I can use for a working capital. Many things I can use the ECB that has been raised. Am I clear or not? Already completed or not? Yes. However, to apply this dispensation, oil marketing companies may use for capital expenditure, may use for repayment of rupee loan. Whatever they want, they can do. But to get applied with this dispensation, they should use only for working capital purposes. Only for working capital purposes. How much amount I should use to working capital requirement? That is not defined because there is no restriction on end use restrictions. How much you want, you can use. Am I clear? But use only for working capital purposes. Don't use for any purpose other than that. Sir, if Reliance India Limited is using its money not for working capital, not Reliance, sorry, Bharat Petroleum is there, it is using the money raised out of ECB, it want to use for capital expenditure, that means it cannot use. It can use. If it uses other than for working capital purposes, exemptions will not apply, normal provisions only will apply. What are normal provisions? First 22 questions, last 3 videos you have to listen. Same will apply. In order to get the dispensation of normal provisions, you must take the ECB, use for working capital. Then only I will give exemption. Okay. Generally, MAMP will be 3 years. Am I clear? Therefore, MAMP is 3 years. Minimum average maturity period and the term of the loan, both are same, different, 100% different. Term will be always higher than MAMP. MAMP means minimum average maturity period. Minimum average, it's an average, not actual term. Already I said all these things in lecture number 2. You can go there and listen. ECB from whom? Any recognized lender. Any recognized lender. Which route? Only automatic route, not approval route. What is the overall ceiling? $10 billion. In a financial year, $10 billion. Overriding effect. This dispensation shall apply notwithstanding the end use restrictions. End use restrictions not applicable. Hedging requirements not applicable. Limits and leverage 7:1 and how much it should be. All those things do not apply. That means the concept of end use restrictions, hedging requirements, limits, leverages, all those do not apply. That means you may do the hedging, you may not do the hedging. Government is not going to interfere with you. Am I clear? First thing, it must be which type of company? Oil manufacturing, public sector, oil marketing companies. Okay, use only for working capital. How many years is the minimum average maturity period? 3 years. You have to maintain that. Okay, ECB from whom? All recognized lenders. Sir, another minimum is 3 years. You can have 5 years, 10 years. It should not go below 3. Minimum. First year minimum. Okay, ECB from whom? Any recognized lender. Which route? Only automatic route. That means to have the dispensation, you should not go through approval route. That means don't go beyond this. Beyond this, if you go generally, if you cross the limits, approval is applicable. So you should not cross this. This limit is a overall final ceiling. That's all. If you go beyond this, normal provisions will apply. Overriding effect, end use restrictions, hedging requirements, limits, leverages does not apply. Next. Same way, dispensation is also given to part B type of companies. What are those? These are called as startups. What are these? Startups. Okay, let's us now understand what is a startup. Okay, eligibility. An entity. First one, like previous one, we need to read many points here, not just small like that. This is a big answer. This is the only big answer that we need to read. From this, all the answers are just 3-line, 4-line answers only. Very easy to understand. So please listen this. ECB in case of startups. Mark this important for the exams as well. First, who is eligible for this dispensation? An entity recognized as a startup by the central government. On what date? As on the date of raising ECB. Thereafter, if it loses the status, anyway, startup means how many years you will be a startup? 1 year, 2 years as decided by the CG. Only then you will be called a startup. After 10 years, why you will be called as a startup? Therefore, I will look whether you are a startup or not as on the date of raising ECB, not thereafter. Okay, first thing. An entity recognized as startup. Sir, who should recognize me as a startup? CG must recognize. So CG means whom? Not MCA, not any other entity, ED, RBI. These people will not declare you. There is a concept called as a Niti Aayog, and in association with ACIC. What is Niti Aayog? Okay, innovative mission is started by the government of India, na? That thing. Okay, so the main point is Niti Aayog has to approve that, and ACIC has to give recognition. Sir, what is ACIC? Niti Aayog, okay sir, we heard. What is ACIC? ACIC means Atal Community Innovation Center. What is that? Atal Community Innovation Center. In the fond memory of, as a token of gratitude towards one of the past prime ministers, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, BJP government has used this creativity. They started a mission with the name of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. The name is Atal Community Innovation Center. Okay, so in fond memory of Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, they started a innovation center called as ACIC, Atal Community Innovation Center. We need to apply to that. Once you apply, they will give a grant to you, grant of license to operate as a startup. So this application you need to submit to the Niti Aayog. Then Niti Aayog will brand you as a startup entity. That's all. You will be a startup from that day. Clear everyone? So first thing, it should be recognized as a startup by the central government as on the date of raising ECB. Okay. MAMP 3 years. Same. Okay, 3 years. Recognized lenders. If you can observe the above point, who can be the recognized here. You can see here. Where I have written this? See here. ECB from whom? All recognized lenders. But here, specifically to apply dispensation, some recognized lenders are given. Lender or investor shall be a resident of FATF compliant country. However, foreign branches, subsidiaries of Indian banks and overseas entity in which Indian entity has made overseas direct investment as per the existing, extant means existing ODI policy will not be considered as a recognized lenders under this framework. Okay, sir, what are all these? There they clearly said that all recognized lenders. See this. Who are recognized lenders under ECB? If you can observe, lender who is a resident of FATF or IOSCO compliant country. Okay, I'm going back once. Let's make some comparison. See here. Here they use the word FATF compliant. IOSCO is not used. That means Securities Commission member, I don't care. You have no chance to make a startup ECB dispensation. Not possible. It must only be FATF compliant. No sir, I am IOSCO compliant. Hell with that. Go over the normal rules only. Even though you are a startup, that startup should consider ECB only from these lenders. Am I clear? Okay. Now let me come back. I will make a comparison and contrast such that you can really understand the idea behind. Where it is? See here. Oil marketing company's position is very simple. From any of these persons you can take the ECB. But when it comes to startups dispensation, it must not be with anyone. It must be only with the specified parties they specify. Okay. Lender who is a resident of FATF or IOSCO can make a ECB generally. But for that startup, this is ineligible. Multilateral, bilateral or regional financial institutions, not possible. Okay, am I clear or not everyone? So only FATF. Individuals can lend, foreign equity holders, not possible. Foreign branches, subsidiaries are permitted only for foreign currency ECB. This is also not fully permitted. There are some restrictions. Technically, lender who is a resident of FATF, that's all. This can only be eligible to make ECB. That means the entity in India which is a startup should take the ECB only from a FATF compliant country. Okay, only from that lender you need to take. However, foreign branches and subsidiaries of Indian banks and overseas entity in which Indian entity has made overseas ODI will not be considered. That means generally foreign banks and subsidiaries of Indian banks, from them I can take foreign currency ECB. But in case of startup, that is also not possible. That means only FATF compliant lender can make this a startup ECB. Very, very important condition to note. Next. Forms. Sir, in which form I can take? Borrowing can be in the form of loans, non-convertible, optionally convertible or partially convertible, whatever the case may be, in form of preference shares. Am I clear? That means first one in form of a loan or non-convertible will not be converted, or if you want you can fully convert, optionally convertible. If you want also you can convert only to some extent, partially convertible. Which one? Preference shares. Loans, preference shares, that's all. Am I clear? Okay. Currency. In which currency you need to borrow? Borrowing should be denominated in any freely convertible currencies or even in INR or a combination. That means it can be foreign currency ECB, it can be INR ECB. First lecture on ECB itself I explained very clearly. What do you mean by FCY ECB? You will be paying in FCY, you will be taking in FCI, you will be taking in rupees. Always you will borrow only in foreign currency. Whether it may be INR ECB, whether it may be rupee ECB. All other transactions after borrowing, payment of interest, okay, and payment of principal back, these will happen in denominated currency in which you want to borrow. If it is FCY ECB, you will take in foreign currency, pay interest in foreign currency, repay principal in foreign currency. INR, you will take in foreign currency, convert that at a spot rate today. After that, payment of regular interest for 10 years will be there in rupees, and at the time principal will also be paid in rupees. That's why hedging requirements here, not for me. Hedging requirement is for the other party making the loan. I already explained all these things. I don't have a time to repeat all these things here. Okay. So the borrowing should be denominated in any freely convertible currency. What do you mean freely convertible currency? Some exchanges are not fully convertible and freely convertible. Some currencies. In freely convertible, any world's currency you can use or a combination. In case of borrowings in INR, the non-resident lender should mobilize INR through swaps or outright sale undertaken through a authorized dealer category 1 in India. That means if it is a INR type of borrowings, that means this person in India is giving a rupee. Am I clear? That means you will give me foreign currency, no doubt. I will convert that into rupees at spot rate. Yes or no? Okay. After that, I will pay interest in rupees. I will pay principal in rupee. This person should use currency swaps. No, sir, I don't want to use currency swap. At least directly come to an authorized dealer. Okay, on that day when you come, what is the outright spot rate available? Purchase in that particular thing. That means technically understand clearly, I am a non-resident lender. Resident ECB lender, borrower is paying me in rupees. I am a recognized lender or a foreign lender. I took these rupees. What I have to do? I have to sell these rupees. To whom? Indian authorized dealer. Sell the rupee and get back my dollars. Yes or no? That's called as an outright sale. At that time, what is the quotation between rupee dollar? At that outright means a spot value. I will be giving you the dollars. Or do one thing. Go for a currency swap. Go for which swap? Currency swap. Okay, so at least INR through swaps. Sir, INR swap means a currency swap. It's not interest rate swap. Interest rate swap is for hedging requirement. INR swap is for swap hedgings. That means to hedge the currency. Am I clear? That is to hedge the interest rates. This is to hedge the currency fluctuation. I will be using a swap, currency swap. You might have already read all these things in SFM. Here is not the point to explain all those things. That means in order to convert those INR realized interest and principal payments, you can either use currency swaps or you can directly outright sell the rupee and take your dollars and go out. But everything should be done through authorized dealer category 1 bank, through whom the ECB originally happened. Next, borrowing per startup will be limited to $3 million, not 3 billion or equivalent. If it is in $3 million, pounds it will become somewhere around 2.36 million, etc. Okay, in dollars maximum 3 million I will allow per financial year, either in INR or in foreign currency or a combination. All put together, aggregate per one financial year for one startup, I will give 3 million chance. Okay. All in cost. Generally, all in cost will be LIBOR plus 4.5%. They will tell. Yes or no? Special dispensations are not applicable. So, as agreed between those two people, yes, you can go. Mutually agreed. End users. end users for any expenditure in connection with the business. Fantastic. Any expenditure, it can be revenue, it can be capital, working capital, payment, everything, whatever you want you can do. Any expenditure, business connection payments, that's all. Don't lend it to another party by taking, that's not a business expenditure. Conversion into equity, okay. After taking the loan, you couldn't pay, can you convert into equity and make that foreign person as a equity holder and owner in your company? Conversion into equity is freely permitted, subject to regulations applicable for foreign investment in startups. Answer, simply listen carefully. There are FDI concept. There is FDI concept. FDI means what? The foreign entity directly invests in Indian entity. Direct investment means when it goes for public issue, this person will subscribe to the shares. Like that, they will become the members and owners in the company. That's one way to become. Clear, everyone? Now, conversion of debt into equity will also have a same kind of effect, because conversion of debt into equity means you couldn't pay. Debt is there in the books, that converted into equity. Creditor converted into equity holder. Creditor converted into owner. Lender converted into owner. Am I clear or not? That means indirectly foreign entities are investing in the Indian capital or not. This is called as an indirect FDI. For that also regulations applicable. Foreign investment in startup. According to FDI guidelines, convert that debt into equity. Okay. Now, you are taking a loan. But for the loan, we need to keep some security or not. So that security is derived in this particular concept. So the next concept, security, as I already started. What is the security? Whenever you take a loan, you need to keep some assets as a security or not. In case of startup, what sort of dispensation was given? Let's have a look. The choice of security to be provided to the lenders is left to the borrowing entity. That means whoever is the borrower, that person has to choose what to put as a security. It may be movable, it may be immobile, it may be intangible, it may be financial securities, etc. Whatever the case may be. Simply security can be any asset. Okay. However, condition is shall comply with the FDI or any other norms applicable for foreign lenders entities holding such securities. Okay, that means it shall comply with the FDI and portfolio investment guidelines. Follow that and put it as a security. Simply it can put any asset as a security. Remember this. Okay. Further, can corporate guarantee is allowed? That means loan is taken by a borrowing entity in India. For that borrowing entity, Tata Consultancy Services want to stand as a corporate guarantor, or Ratan Tata want to stand as a guarantor. Corporate guarantor or personal guarantor is also allowed. Okay, next. This is important. May be asked in exam. See here. Guarantee issued by a non-resident is allowed, not allowed? Is allowed only if such parties qualify as a lender under ECB for startup. Who can become the ECB lender? Only FATF compliant country. First, that person can give a guarantee. That means if a non-resident lender, if a non-resident person want to give a guarantee for loan taken by Indian entity, it can give, provided it should also qualify as a recognized lender for ECB for startup, not ECB. ECB means again 4 kinds will come. Already we read just now. Only ECB for startup, who is eligible lender? FATF compliant. Only that person can give a guarantee to the repayment. Am I clear? Okay, next. However, guarantee or letter of credit, letter of undertaking, letter of comfort, whatever the case may be, guarantee is given by Indian banks, All India Financial Institutions or NBFC is not permitted. That means normal ECB it is possible, but in case of startup, Indian banks, All India Financial Institutions or NBFCs are not permitted to give the guarantee or security for startup. For startup ECBs. Hedging. So there will be two types of ECB. FCY denominated ECB, INR denominated ECB. If it is a INR denominated ECB, hedging need to be done not by Indian lender, a borrower, it should be done by a foreign lender, yes or no? So that foreign lender should cover its INR exposure using any kind of derivative product available with AD category 1 bank in India. Am I clear or not? That means overseas lender in case of INR denominated ECB will be eligible to hedge its INR exposure through permitted derivative products in AD category 1. It can be interest rate swap, it can be currency swap, it can be coupon only swap, it can be principal only swap, whatever hedging procedure you want to follow, money market hedging, whatever hedging process you want to follow, you can follow that, including a forward hedging strategy. Okay, so there are many hedging strategies in SFM na. First one is a forward hedging. Okay, next one is a money market hedging, leading, lagging, exposure netting. Okay, after that currency swap, interest rate swaps and forward rate agreements. Many hedging strategies are there even in SFM na. You can follow any kind of hedging product available with your AD category 1 bank. Let's take Barclays India or SBI in India with the foreign branches. Okay, the lender can also access the domestic market through branches or subsidiaries of Indian banks abroad or branches of foreign banks with Indian presence on a back-to-back basis. Simply remember, he can use any kind of hedging strategy available with the AD category 1 bank or Indian branches of a foreign bank or a foreign branches of an Indian bank. Through that he can hedge. Next, sir, if it is a ECB in FCY, what will be the situation? Startups raising ECB in foreign currency, whether it can be natural hedge of exposure netting or exposure to currency is due to exchange rate movements, hence are advised to ensure that they have appropriate risk management policy to maintain potential risk arising out of ECB. Normal ECB, if you remember, hedging becomes 100% mandatory. Full hedging has to be done. 100% of your ECB interest, 100% of your ECB principal must be hedged using principal only swap. Interest has to be hedged using interest only, coupon only swap. But in case of startups, dispensation is hedging is advisable. Whether you hedge or not, I don't care. But hedging is mandatory. Sorry, hedging is optional. Sorry. Hedging is optional. Whether you hedge or not is your headache. Am I clear or not? What is telling? I am advising, means suggesting you to ensure a risk management policy. How you will manage? In whatever way you want, you can manage. I am not telling you should follow this. Coupon only swap, interest only swap. In case of infrastructure space companies, it becomes 70%. All those things I will not speak. If you want, hedge it. If you don't want, don't hedge it. On the date of payment, if conversion risk happens, you die. That's all. Am I clear? Government is not advising anything because startups don't have that much money to enter into hedging strategies and pay the premiums on hedging. Clear? For that purpose, in order to understand the problems faced by startups, they said that I am advising, if you want, you follow, or else, that's all. Government is not concerned. Conversion rate. Okay. Sir, if in case of borrowing is in INR, Sir, INR means, if you can observe, I will borrow in rupees. No. I will borrow in foreign currency only. Am I clear? I will borrow in foreign currency. Observation is required. In case of FCY denominated ECB, in case of which ECB? FCY denominated ECB, what I will do? I will take in FCY, pay interest in FCY, pay principal in FCY. That means I need to make conversion how many times? 3 times. How many times? 3 times. What occasions you need to make? First time by borrowing the loan, second situation while paying the interest, third one while repaying the principal. If it is INR based ECB, what will happen? When you are taking it is foreign currency, convert that into rupee. Once converted into rupee, you will pay only in rupees. Conversion is not required. Am I clear? So therefore, on the date of ECB agreement, fix a rate. At that rate, you will convert this INR into foreign currency into rupee. In case of borrowing in INR, the foreign currency INR conversion will be at the market rate as on the date of agreement. Fix that rate, enter into a forward contract, close it, that's all. On the date of agreement, when you are entering into ECB agreement, on the date, what is the rate available? Lock that rate, that's all. At that rate, you will convert. Therefore, I said very clearly, INR denominated ECB does not mean that you are borrowing in INR. You will repay interest and principal in rupees. But when taking, you will take only in foreign currency. Clear? So, as on the date, original beginning date, like agreement date, what is there? As per the market rate, block that and pay. Next. Other provisions. So, parking of ECB proceeds, reporting arrangements, all those things only we are going to read. This is not a point in itself. This point forms part of 25 to 34 questions. Okay, all these things we are going to read. Now listen carefully. Parking of ECB proceeds. Okay, parking of ECB proceeds. So the next concept, parking of ECB proceeds. Sir, what do you mean by parking of ECB proceeds? Sir, parking is a place where whenever you want to put something as idle for a temporary purpose, we will park it. Parking is possible only if two conditions are satisfied. First is, it is not utilized, it is not underutilization, it is idle, to be very clear, and that is only for temporary purpose. For example, I went to a movie theater, I want to park my car or a vehicle, means what? I am selling it to the theater person. No, I want to put it idle for a temporary purpose. Am I clear or not? Or for a temporary time. Same even with ECB. Whenever you raise ECB, immediately use may not be there. Okay, I will raise ECB because interest rates are low today, but I will use after 4 or 5 months. Till that, what you need to do? Deposit. Don't put it idle. Park your ECB proceeds in two ways. I am raising ECB for a foreign project. For what? A foreign project. That means I want to raise in foreign currency and I want to utilize also in foreign currency. In such a case, first situation apply. No sir, some in UP, some in India, some in outside India, or totally in India, then this will apply. Am I clear? Okay. In easy way, I have a diagrammatic representation of the same. Please have a look. Parking of ECB proceeds. Okay, let's understand. ECB lender lent $10 million to an Indian borrower. Okay, he want to utilize for a foreign project. He want to utilize for an Indian project, or even a combination, Indian and foreign. Only foreign here. If utilization of that borrowing is in a foreign currency again, then temporarily park in pending utility. That means you are putting in pending of utilization. You are not utilizing it. Temporarily you are keeping it idle. But don't put it idle. You have options. Temporarily park in pending utility in bank deposits or bank's certificate of deposits or other banking products. Okay, you can keep here, or you can invest in. It's not and, it is or in between. Okay, bank deposit, bank's certificates of deposit or other banking products, or treasury bills. That means US treasury, okay, UK treasury, like RBI for us, treasury bills or similar instruments. Maximum maturity should be 1 year. That means the parking cannot be made for more than 1 year. That means you should not take it and you should keep it idle. Okay, use it 1 year maximum. Will give you your idle time period, buffer time. Okay, either banks or treasury bills or similar instruments issued by treasury. Okay, but in both the cases it should be credit rated bonds. It should be credit rated bonds. Okay, if it is a credit rated, it should be credit rated by Fitch credit rating agency. Very popular, big 3 in USA. Okay, like what to say, CRISIL in India. This is the biggest credit rating agency, one of the 3 biggest in USA. USA is having 3 biggest credit rating agency. Fitch, IBCA. Okay, second one is S&P, Standard and Poor. Third one is a Moody's credit rating agency. Any of these you need to get credit rated. If it is through the first one, minimum AA rated with 1 minus point. Okay, what do you mean by minus here? Standard amount of AA category will be there. Little amount of decrease also it will be tolerable. All this technical knowledge we need not have here. Remember, AA minus is the rate of a bond, credit rating. So that means utilize either in the bank deposits or certificate of deposits or T-bills having this credit rating, 3AA rating given by the Moody credit rating, or AA with a slight minus in case of Fitch credit rating or S&P. Or you have another option, foreign branches or subsidiaries of Indian banks abroad. Okay, Indian bank is there, abroad there is a foreign branch, either that in make a deposit there, or subsidiaries of Indian banks are there abroad, you can also deposit there. Next one, I don't want to utilize for a foreign project completely, I want to use it both or only for Indian project. First convert the foreign currency into INR, that ECB. Deposit with the AD category 1 bank, SBI, Barclays India, etc. You should invest only in the term deposits of not exceeding 12 months in unencumbered position. What position? Unencumbered. Encumbrance means for a loan taken in India, this particular deposit should not be kept as a security. It should not be encumbered to any kind of loans you take in India. So please copy this chart. Once after doing this, we will be going into the next concept. From the next concept, we are going to see the procedural aspects of external commercial borrowings. So ECB provisions originally are drafted in this way. ECB proceeds are permitted to be parked abroad as well as domestically in the manner given below. Whatever the chart you have drafted, it is the normal descriptive manner of understanding. Parking of ECB proceeds abroad. ECB proceeds meant only for foreign currency expenditure can be parked abroad pending utilization. Till utilization, these funds can be invested in deposits, certificate of deposits, rated not less than AA minus by the Standard and Poor or Fitch, or AA3 by Moody's. Treasury bills and other monetary instruments of 1 year maturity. And ratings same applicable, minimum rating as indicated above. That's why one flower bracket will cover both the credit ratings. Next, deposits with the foreign branches or Indian banks abroad. Everything was already written. Parking of ECB proceeds domestically within India. If you want to use the ECB raised from outside India, then you can use it for parking purposes, but still you should be repatriating immediately for the credit to the rupee accounts with AD category 1 bank. Foreign currency converted into Indian currency. And you can park it only in term deposits, only with AD category 1 banks in India for a maximum 12 months. It should be in an unencumbered position. So all the conditions were also written. So this is the point. Next, 26 to 34. All the topics will be talking only about the procedural aspects of ECB master direction. What it is, let us see. Procedure for raising ECB. From here, interpretations will stop. Only procedures will be there. You need to remember every point inside. Okay, at least on an overall basis. There are two routes to raise ECB, as already discussed in the first lecture to the ECB. One will be the automatic route, second one will be the approval route. Automatic route means no need of any kind of approval. Directly AD category 1 bank will comply if the specific parameters are satisfied. Am I clear? Next, if you want to deviate the normal situation of automatic route, you need to go for a approval. Example, leverage ratio for equity and the particular debt ratio is 7:1. If you want to deviate that, go for an approval. Okay, automatic route apply to AD category 1 bank in form ECB. Approval route, approach RBI in form ECB. RBI sends your application to AD category 1 bank for examination. It will consider for what extent I need to give an approval. That means taking into consideration these factors. Okay, macroeconomic factors affecting that particular entity, overall compliance of the guidelines. You are deviating everything inside ECB direction or deviating only general guidelines. I will look into merits of the case, means to what extent it is suggestible and to what extent it is justified to give an approval to this particular entity in that particular case. Even though it deviates automatic route, merits of the case it need to consider. If ECB proposals received by RBI are above the certain threshold limits, then it would be placed before empowered committee set up by the RBI. I already said, if you are crossing the numerical limits provided by this particular ECB, your details will be submitted to the empowered committee set up by RBI. They will decide whether to give an approval or not. I repeat, step number 1, first approach RBI with an application called as form ECB. After that, RBI will send your application to AD category 1 bank. They will check the following factors and they will grant the approval. Next, reporting requirements. So next one, reporting requirements of ECB. Just 3 points will be there. These 3 points are only just reporting. First one, any drawdown in respect of ECB should happen only after obtaining loan registration number from RBI. To obtain LRN, borrowers are required to submit duly certified form ECB, which also contains the terms and conditions of ECB in a duplicate to designated AD category 1 bank. What do you mean by duplicate? 2 copies has to be submitted. In turn, 1 copy will be put with that AD category 1 bank, 1 copy will be forwarded to the Director Reserve Bank of India. Okay, Director Reserve Bank of India belonging to which one? Department of Statistics and Information Management will be submitted. In that it will be submitted. But one important point, loan agreements need not be submitted. Am I clear? Loan agreements need not be submitted. That ECB agreement will be there. That is not required to be submitted. You need to submit any drawdown. Drawdown means whenever you want to withdraw any amount from the sanctioned limits, you need to always update LRN. That means whenever you want to do that, you need to submit to the RBI. So to obtain LRN, how to obtain the LRN? First, you need to apply in form number ECB Generally it's called as a ECB1 form. That form will be submitted in a duplicate to the AD category 1 bank. They will forward it to the RBI. Okay, loan agreements need not be submitted all the times. Next, changes in the terms and conditions. If you want to change the term, if you want to change the maturity frequency of payment of interest, if you want to change the total term of that particular loan, if you want to change the interest on that, okay, any kind of terms and conditions, if you want to change, it's a mutual agreement between lender and the borrower, and it should be reported to Department of Statistics and Information Management through revised form ECB within 7 days. Maximum period is 7 days. Next, monthly reporting of actual transaction. Whenever you make this particular ECB, you may utilize it for multiple times within a month, or you may not even use that. Whatever it happens, actual transactions must be reflected in a return called as ECB2. That means, like what we see in generally in GST, during the month any transaction happen, we will reflect everything in the form of a return, which will be filed to the department. In the same way, whether you don't have a transaction, whether you have a transaction, either at least a return has to be submitted or not. Same way, once you raise external commercial borrowings, actual transactions of borrowing whatever you made or payments you make during the month, you need to reflect it in the form ECB2. It should be reaching the DASM within 7 working days from the close of the month. So this will be one of the most important MCQ that he can ask. Okay, ECB2 form must reach 7 days from the close of the month. Okay, and this change in terms and conditions should reach within 7 days from the changes that are affected. And the last important thing is, loan agreement for raising ECB are not required to be submitted to the Reserve Bank. ECB LRN must be used whenever there is some drawdown. Whenever you are drawing the foreign currency, or whenever you are drawing foreign currency and converting, at that time you need to take the permission, or not the permission, you need to submit LRN. Next, late submission fee for delayed reporting. ECB2 form must be submitted within already we said that it should be completed within 7 days from the close of the month or not. If you are not doing that, what will be the penalty? So just you need to remember this form ECB2, this will be applicable both for form ECB2 and form ECB, it will be the penalty. Next, borrowings by entities under investigation. Borrowings by entities under investigation. If an entity, that means an Indian entity who is borrowing, if it is under investigation by any investigating agency in India, what will be the situation? All entities against which investigation, adjudication or appeal. Investigation is to know the real truth. Whenever there is some allegations against a particular entity, investigation will be conducted to check whether the circumstances are really existing or not. Adjudication means what? Adjudication means conducting an inquiry, imposing a penalty. That means a particular entity under FEMA is undergoing adjudication to levy a penalty. During the course of adjudication, this concept apply. Or already adjudication completed, I am agreeing with that adjudication, I am making an appeal. I am making a appeal. Under which law? Not under all the laws, only under FEMA. And those should be pending. Completed investigation, completed adjudication, completed or disposed appeals are not governed here. At the time you are applying for LRN or at the time you are applying for ECB permissions, you are under investigation under FEMA, adjudication going on under FEMA, or appeals already running under FEMA. In such cases, raising ECB. They may raise ECB as per applicable norms if they are otherwise eligible, notwithstanding pending investigations, etc. That means they can apply. Even entities undergoing investigation or adjudication or appeals are also eligible to take ECB when, if they are not otherwise prohibited. That means they should be eligible lenders in India. If that be the case, irrespective of ongoing investigations, adjudication, appeal, they can have ECB. Keep it in mind always. The main point is, generally we think that we make wrong presumption saying that entities under investigation can't raise ECB. It can raise ECB. Sir, outcome has come. Outcome. outcome of the particular adjudication or appeals or investigation came that is against to the entity without prejudice to the outcome of such investigations, this will apply. For example, if investigation resulted in a prosecution, that means already that entity is said to be doing some fraud. In such cases, necessary action will be taken. Reporting. Borrowing entity shall inform about pendency of such investigation or adjudication or appeal to the AD category 1 bank or RBI as the case may be. Okay, why AD category or RBI? In case of automatic route, you will inform AD category 1. In case of approval route, go for a RBI as the case may be. Accordingly, in all applications where the borrowing entity has indicated about pending investigation, adjudication or appeals, while approving the proposal, shall intimate the agencies concerned by endorsing a copy of approval letter. That means whenever you are applying for an ECB, you may apply either to AD category 1 bank or you may apply to RBI. RBI or AD category 1 bank should give an approval to you that even though you are undergoing investigation, we are allowing you to accept ECB. You should take that approval letter, send to the foreign ECB lender, and then you can borrow the money. That means without giving an approval letter to the ECB lender, you can't accept the ECB. So this is all about borrowing entities under investigation, adjudications and appeals. So next one. ECB by entities under restructuring or ECB facilities for refinancing of a stressed assets. Okay, a company went into insolvency process or a company went into internal restructuring because its existing position is very sensitive. It could not continue its operations until and unless restructuring happens. Reorganization of the company affairs includes reduction of share capital, okay, buyback sometimes, or reduction of interest rates by or dividend rates by preference shareholders, reduction of interest rates by the debenture holders, sacrifice by the debenture holders, as we already see in the chapter called as compromises arrangements, or sometimes a company may be insolvent which goes into IBC resolution plan. In the resolution plan, if they specify resolution plan is a plan to resolve insolvency, a plan not to make it insolvent, resolve insolvency and make to get back into normal position and continue as a going concern. An attempt to make it is called as a resolution plan. In depth we discussed in the chapter called as insolvency and bankruptcy code. So resolution plan is a plan to resolve the problem of insolvency. Okay, in that plan many things will happen. If one of the plan of resolution, the plan that has to be implemented within the resolution plan, if it contains restructuring through ECB, then permitted. That means in India, my company is insolvent. My company is insolvent in India, within India. Now my company's position is very bad. I can have ECB into India. Okay, I can have ECB into India and use this to pay the Indian liability. A question may arise, if I am insolvent within India, how can the other person give me a loan? Main point is, Government of India will stand as a guarantor to some extent. Separate guidelines are there for that. And here the advantage is, in India interest rates are very high. Okay, in India interest rates are very high. Therefore, you may borrow at a lesser interest rate and pay that particular higher interest rate loan and substitute that particular loan amount. Clear everyone? So during the resolution plan or insolvency process, okay, if ECB is one of the item inside the resolution plan, then okay. Or in most of the cases, one thing will happen. Whenever companies are insolvent, resolution plan provides for a merger. Okay, provides for merger. Means what? Another company will take over this particular entity which is almost insolvent, may not be insolvent, which is almost at the neck moment of insolvency. In such situation, another entity may come and acquire this company in form of a merger or an acquisition. Okay, that company after merger will go for an ECB, okay, and pay this particular rupee loan. It will slowly repay that amount. Am I clear? Another process is, At the resolution plan, they provide for ECB. Okay, resolution professional says that to get back to a going concern, ECB has to be taken. At the time ECB is taken, company is not insolvent, almost it is insolvent. Okay, company will revive back to the normal position in another 1.5 year or 2 years. They will write in the agreement clearly, if this company could not repay the ECB loan as well, convert that into equity, and that ECB person will gain ownership over this particular entity. This is the way. Next one. This is all about restructuring. Second situation, stressed assets within India. What assets? Stressed assets. Stressed assets are such assets which generally in India we call it as NPA, non-performing asset. But to become a non-performing asset, 90 days has to be elapsed, SARFAESI rules has to apply. Therefore, here if you can observe, eligible corporate borrowers, two things are used here. Corporate borrowers who availed rupee loans domestically for capital expenditure in manufacturing and infrastructure sector and classified as SMA2 or NPA. SMA2 or NPA. Sir, what is SMA2? Special mention account. Okay, special mention account, when it will happen? If your principal or interest is overdue, today you need to pay, but you didn't pay even between 61 to 90 days, I will call you as a SMA, not NPA. If you cross that, I will call you as a NPA. Am I clear? So therefore, many conditions are there. Who can pay the stressed assets? That means you are not paying within India. See here, I am a corporate borrower. Plus, okay, I have a Indian loan. Okay, plus utilized for capital expenditure, and that should be for manufacturing and infrastructure. Okay, and it should be classified as SMA2 category or a NPA. Okay, 0 to 60 will be SMA1, 61 to 90 SMA2, 90 above NPA. Okay, first many conditions. I must be a corporate borrower, must have taken Indian loan for capital expenditure purposes, using it for manufacturing or infrastructure. Okay, and SMA2 classification or NPA classification must be made. In such case, you are defaulted in this particular SMA, means you are defaulted in payment on the date. In such a case, the defaulted amount you can pay by availing ECB. I'm not insolvent, I'm not paying to them, that's all. Am I clear? Okay, can avail ECB for repayment of these loans under one-time settlement with the lenders. Okay, lenders within India, one-time settlement, clear all the dues. That means you should not borrow ECB and use it for multiple purposes again. One-time settlement, pay everything. Lender banks are also permitted to sell through assignment such loans to eligible ECB lenders. Okay, provided the resultant external commercial borrowings comply with all in cost, minimum average maturity period and other framework. Simply one point, take it and pay, but condition, you should satisfy all these conditions. You can borrow that and pay it as a one-time settlement. But who cannot give ECB in this case? Foreign branches or overseas Indian subsidiaries are not eligible, because already I am defaulted to Indian company na. Again Indian subsidiaries you should not take. Next, let's make it quick and complete it in 5 minutes. Standard operating procedures for untraceable entities. What is an untraceable entity? A entity in India, being Indian borrower, borrowed the loan, but he is untraceable or it is untraceable. What it will be? But how many years it should be untraceable? How many attempts I need to make to remind it, and even after that it shouldn't repay? So let's see. The following SOP has to be followed by designated AD category 1 bank in case of untraceable entities who are found to be in contravention of reporting provisions for ECB and fail to submit prescribed returns. Sir, untraceable entities are contravening. Contravening what? Contravening the reporting provisions. Sir, other things it can contravene. It cannot contravene other things, because all the other things are looked after by AD category. How much should be your equity liability? All these things are looked after by AD category, where no contravention can happen. Okay, contravention from your side can happen of non-filing of the ECB2 form or revised ECB when there is a change in the terms and conditions of ECB already borrowed. Therefore, if you are failed, okay, see here, the following SOP has to be followed by designated AD category 1 bank in case of untraceable entities who are found in contravention of reporting provisions for ECB by failing to submit the returns either physically or electronically for past 8 quarters or more. 8 quarters or more. But what is an untraceable entity? Any borrower who has raised ECB will be treated as untraceable entity if entity or auditors of that entity, మనం కూడా బుక్ అవుతాం, directors of the entity or promoters of the entity are not reachable, not responsive, not replying or replying in negative. Okay, I will not pay, he is telling, over emails, letters, phone for a period of not less than 2 quarters with documented communication or reminders numbering 6 or more, and it fulfills both the following conditions. Look here. First thing, failure is made. What is made? Failure is made. Okay. First thing is condition 1. It should be untraceable entity. What is untraceable entity? This will be untraceable entity. This untraceable entity, to become untraceable entity, it should be non-responsive for a period of not less than 2 quarters. For a period of not less than 2 quarters. Or 6 reminders. 6 or more, any reminders. That means I have given 10 reminders in a period of, quarter means how much? 3 months. 3 months is a quarter. 2 quarters means 6 months. Am I clear? In 6 months, I have given 5 reminders, but he didn't reply. Take it for untraceable entity. In 1 quarter, I have given 7 reminders. He is not responding. Take this as an untraceable entity. Okay. So, first thing is, it must be a untraceable entity. That untraceable entity must commit a contravention. Contravention in reporting provisions. Okay. For how many quarters? 8 quarters or more. Past 8 quarters or more. Okay. In such case, what will happen? First thing, what is untraceable entity? Where auditors, first one is entity itself, entity, auditors, directors, promoters are not reachable, responsible, replying in a negative way to the letters, emails or phone, etc. in the last not less than 2 quarters minimum. Okay, or reminders not numbering 6 or more, and it fulfills both the conditions. Entity not found to be operative at the registered office. When I go to the register office, entity is not there. They said entity is not there here. That means the register office address you have given is wrong. You are also liable under Companies Act. Okay. As per the records available with the AD Bank, are found to be operative during the visit by the official and not found to be operative on the date on which the officials visit that. I mean, clear, all other agencies, investigation agencies, when it is not operative at the time. Okay. And entities have not submitted statutory auditor certificate for the last 2 years or more. In this condition and this condition and above conditions satisfied, I will call it as an untraceable entity. What will be the action taken again as the untraceable entities? The following actions: file revised form ECB if required, and last form ECB2 return without certification from the company with the untraceable entity written in the bold on top. The outstanding amount will be treated as written off from the external debt liability of the country, but may be retained by the lender in its books for recovery through judicial or non-judicial means. No fresh ECB application by entity should be examined or processed by AD category 1 bank. Directorate of Enforcement should be informed whenever an entity is designated as untraceable entity. No inward remittance or debt servicing will be permitted under auto route. Let us first read these 4 conditions clearly. Okay, see here. What he is telling is what actions will be taken, okay, in respect of untraceable entity. if it is really defaulted, what it will be done? First thing, last filed revised form ECB will be there or not? Okay, whenever there is a terms and conditions, that revised ECB form, if it is required, if no change has made, no revised ECB, actual transactions has to be reported within 7 days from the end of the quarter, end of that particular period or not, ECB2 return will be filed or not. That ECB2 return, take it. Okay, ECB2 return which is not certified from the company, that means last submitted ECB2 return, take it, in the bold letters written on the top, write down it is a untraceable entity. Once untraceable, your debt will be written off in the books of accounts of the lender. Okay, and debt will be written off does not mean I will leave you by judicial or non-judicial means. That means judicial means through the court proceedings, non-judicial means arbitration, conciliation. I will recover amount from you by hook or crook in some or the other way. Okay, next, from here funds will be given to this particular borrower within India who defaulted. That particular company in future cannot make any ECB application, and this particular AD category 1 bank should inform enforcement directorate that it is an untraceable entity, and no kind of inward remittance. This fellow in India, borrower who defaulted, should not get any inward remittances or debt servicing under automatic route. That means every time you need to go through the RBI approval category. Next one, change in AD category 1 bank. Change in AD category 1 bank. If you want to change from one bank to another AD category which is dealing with your ECB, you can change. That means I am changing my location from Hyderabad to Delhi. Why I will go to Hyderabad AD category 1? I want to shift. You can shift if no objection certificate is given from existing AD category 1 bank. And cancellation of LRN. The designated AD category 1 bank may directly approach, okay, directly approach DSIM for cancellation of LRN for ECB contracted ensuring with the drawdown. That means if you want to cancel LRN, okay, if you want to cancel LRN such that the other party cannot misuse the loan amount, you can directly approach DSM for cancellation, and you should be reporting in the monthly returns in ECB2. Conversion of ECB into equity. Okay. Condition number 1. The activity of the borrowing company is governed under automatic route for FDI. Okay. Why FDI came? Array, you are converting ECB into equity means he is capturing your capital. It's an investment, foreign direct investment, but indirect route. But it should be gone through automatic route or government approval is received wherever applicable. That means either come under automatic route or come under the government's approval route. Okay, for foreign equity participation as per extant FDI policy. One line, if you want to remember for the exams. First thing, borrowing company should come through FDI route. It should not come under any other routes available. Come through existing FDI route. Conversion should be with the lender's consent and without additional cost. Should not result in contravention of eligibility and breach of the applicable sector cap for the foreign equity holding. Okay, that means every company, every entity whenever formed, government will tell that beyond this level foreign equity holding should not be there. Within that applicable cap limits, FDI is allowed, but no additional cost. But lender should give the consent. Lender means whom? The person who lent the money, we defaulted, converting that amount into equity, that person should give the consent. Applicable guidelines. Okay. Condition 4. For partial conversion, conversion can be of two types: full conversion, partial conversion. For partial conversion, converted portion should be reported in FCGPR prescribed for reporting of FDI flows, while monthly reporting to DSM in the form of ECB2 return. Okay, clearly in that ECB form you need to write ECB partially converted into equity. That's all. Remember this point. So you need to report. Mainly come through FDI route. Take the lender's consent and you should be within the sector cap, guidelines and reporting. Enough, sir. For the examination sake, whatever we discussed today, first 2-3 concepts are very important. Remaining are just procedural. Remember to some extent. But the first 3 videos and this video, first 35-40 minutes, absolutely important for the exams. Remaining all are only just reporting views. Clear, everyone? So this is the completion of ECB fully. Thank you.